your story in the burn book, we didn't have 6,000 pages to write every word of everyone's story. So in the burn book, which you could pre-order on Amazon, everybody right now, it launches June 18th. And we are so excited because Brian's story and his snapshot of his story is really in here, and some really powerful quotes that I read to you earlier. And, just hearing all of the detail behind the detail is so inspiring, for anybody that wants to make change, whether it's alcoholism or it's a relationship that you need to get out of. If you're thinking you need to get out of it, you probably do. If you're thinking that you're an alcoholic, you probably are. If you're thinking you're a drug addict, you probably are. If you or thinking you're addicted to sugar, you probably are. And there's that thought is in your head for a reason. And we hope that today, if you have that thought, if you are that closet alcoholic, like my father, who tried to hide little shooter bottles all around the place, all around the house, all around his car, peppermint schnapps bottles in the top of the cupboard when I was too short to really look up there and see them, or, I would watch him pull trash up and then smash a beer can and put it way in the bottom of the trash and then put the trash over it so nobody could see it. And, so I grew up thinking that that was a really, really bad thing. And what I get scared about, Brian, is, I drink socially, and I have no problem for 90 days, 120 days, like just without even really thinking about it, just not having a drink. I don't think about it as something that is a staple in my life. And I watched my uncles and my dad grow up, not only abusing that, but, their children and women, and, it was pretty chaotic. And so I do have this real sensitive, I have addictive personality, just like you. So I have this real acute sensitivity to it. And I don't like to drink that much. And in the last 3 years, I have taken like 120 or 90 days off toward the end of the year. And what I've noticed is that it's inspired the people around me as a leader. I think this is a movement right now in our country. Or maybe it's just something I'm really interested in because I know that can grab me as fast as it grabbed my dad, because we have the same personality. And I want to try to always, like you do, have a healthy fear of that.
Yeah.
And I see this trend of sobriety becoming cool. I don't know if you see that trend. I'm going to ask you to elaborate on that in a minute, but stories like this make sobriety cool. It makes it desirable. It makes it an achievement to, be able to say no in the face of something that's so dangerous, so dark, could take people to like crazy dark places. And they're saying no when they could go down the street and get anything from the liquor store that they wanted. I see this wave of it. I see influencers talking about it. Non-alcoholic beer sales are going way through the roof. And mocktails are going way through the roof. And I think there is a energy around alcoholism that is starting to flip in society to say that, hey, maybe sobriety is the new party.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. I will say that, some of the things that we've talked about in counseling is just the destructive nature of alcohol and just how, far reaching it is. One of the quotes that counselor talked about is she has so much experience with addiction from all the folks that she helps. She said that if evil had an avatar, it would be addiction. Mm. And it's just a powerful visual and just a powerful statement, because it is, in some ways it's socially acceptable. Everywhere you go, there's, it's very, very easy to grab. It's prevalent. People are all having a good time, but it is so destructive, and it's a slippery slope, and it's a problem, and it grabs you before you know it's a problem or before you realize what's happening to you. And then by that point, it's too late. So it's a very, very slippery slope, and it's a very scary thing to tinker with it. And I think, there's a lot of people who have abused alcohol, and a lot of people who abuse alcohol on a regular basis. I think it starts kind of in college. And I know for me, it started kind of in college and been shrinking, and then I never really put it down. Some people can put those behaviors down and they can go on to live a normal life. But I never could put it down the way that it needed to be put down. And so I really look back at my time in college and see that's where sort of the seed was planted, and it just became out of control as I moved into a professional career, and was so very social. So I hope that it is something that people are taking a serious look at. I know that that if you address those problems, or if you just abstain from it, I know that you'll have a different outlook on life. I know that. I know that you will also, not have some of the chaos in your life that you can experience when that stuff is prevalent.
Mm-hmm.
I know for me, my life became chaotic, and to the outside looking in, it looked like everything was going fine. And that's what happens a lot of times is the yard was nice and mowed, the house was painted, but inside the house was a mess, and it's just, people a lot of times they hide it away, and you think, oh, they don't have a problem. And then you become a little bit fearful that what's wrong with me? Because you're being honest with yourself. I have a problem, but it's prevalent in our society. And there's a lot of people who do have a problem. And it's just very destructive.
Yeah, I know as a trainer, and you've done over 1,000 camps, I've done 15,000 or so. And I know as a trainer firsthand, we are one of the first people that somebody with an addiction, whether it's drugs, alcohol, food, we will be oftentimes one of the first people that they come to and that they have the conversation with. I would just notice people that this is how it would manifest inside of the gym. They would bring me their food log.
Yeah.
And their food log would be pristine. They'd do a really good job with it. But what they weren't including in their food log was alcohol. And they weren't losing the body fat. And burn isn't about body fat. We all know that. But the reason I use that as an example is because your body mass is a calculation. It is science. It's not anybody's opinion. It's calories in versus calories out. And if you expend more calories on a daily basis than you intake, then you are going to lose mass, whether it be the form of muscle or body fat, right? I would have members sit down with me and they would tell me that their food log was pristine. And I'm like, but why aren't you making progress then? And then I won't say the name out of respect because I don't have clearance to share the name, but there was a situation where I had one lady who, she broke down, like a hardcore breakdown in just a regular run of the mill focus meeting. We were going through her food log and I just said, listen, I know that you are not being fully honest with me, because I know the calculations, I know the science. I got all the letters behind my name too, to know all the things. And I know that you are leaving something out of this equation. I didn't know it was alcohol. I could have just been that she wouldn't. I was like, what are we being dishonest about? Why isn't 1 + 1 mathing right now? And I remember in the moment she broke down and she said, Devan, I go into my bathroom every night and I have 5 or 6 shooters. And I put the shooters in the little thing and I tie up the bathroom trash and I take the bathroom trash out to the dumpster trash and I make sure and then I replace the bag, and that's my nightly routine. And I get drunk every single night and nobody knows about it but me.
Yeah.
Nobody knows about it but me. And that was the part to me that gave me chills. And she's, obviously took a long time to get that out. And so I want to ask you, based on your experience in AA, based on your experience in counseling, based on your experience in Burn Boot Camp, how are people, as you've been sharing your story and you've been vulnerable to share your story and to really inspire people, has there been anybody that has listened to your story and said, you know what, Brian, like you've inspired me to stop as well. You've inspired me to stop drinking, whether it's a Burn member or somebody else. Who are the people in your life that are now looking up to you to be sober? Because I'm sure that that's happening. And also, if you're teaching other people how to do something, that's the next layer. And that's where mastery really comes in, where, you've got 1,800 plus days in a row. I would say, although you have a healthy fear of it, you still, you're 5 years into this and you're not going backward now. So who are those people in your life? Who have you specifically helped? And maybe you could just share a little bit about their story. If there is one that comes to mind, or if not, you could maybe elaborate on wherever your mind goes.
Yeah, it's when I started thinking about Burn Boot Camp and helping people, that my past problems and how I've been able to address that, and how I felt, sort of was a springboard in becoming a franchise partner and wanting to help people in a meaningful way. I grew up in a Christian home, and my parents were, great, and they didn't drink. My grandfather was alcoholic, and my mom was so fearful of it. She was so fearful of alcohol. It was, that was one of the things that she always said was, out of all the things, it's just, please don't drink. And it's so ironic because, out of all the things that she didn't want me to do, that was the one thing that I made sure I did, right? And just really took off with it. So I was, I was the prodigal son, right? I grew up had this faith background, grew up in this Christian home, and then went off to college and just went wild. And for a long part of my life, was away from that. So the one thing I'm so thankful of is the role that God played in my life in overcoming this. And one of the things that I find interesting is I'm a talkative person, but this is not something that a lot of people who have a problem are willing to share openly. God has given me this ability to share my story without any shame or guilt. And I'm so thankful for that. So it will come up in normal conversation in the gym with members. And they see me, they know that I had some pretty substantial weight loss, and my transformation on when you see a picture of then and now, it looks like it was just weight loss, but there's more to my story. And I share that story. I've had people in tears. I've had people say, I'm 170 days sober. I had, this one lady recently, we had a conversation. She decided to stop drinking, and she's 170 days sober, and she posted it, and I asked her about it. And she was taking care of a friend who had cirrhosis, and she watched this person who had this long history of alcohol addiction finally, just take her out. And she said, when she was watching this, and she was a big part of her life, she said, I'm done. And I wanted to make sure that she knew that I understood that. And I said to her, I'm so proud of that step you took. If you need anything from me, if you just need to talk about it, just let me know. Because I know that there's going to be days ahead for all of us who walk away from this where things trigger. Whether it's you're on a cruise, or whether you're finding yourself eating dinner and you're at a bar, and maybe it was a bar that you used to go to, and you might need somebody to just, hey, I'm struggling. I want to be that person. The relationship as a trainer and as an owner that we share with our members is intimate in a lot of ways with what they share with us. And it's a big responsibility. It's a great responsibility. I'm thankful for that. And I think that's, that God put me in that position to be able to help folks. If somebody hears this and they go get help, it was worth it. My story and what I was able to overcome, if it gave somebody the courage to take that step of faith, then I'm thankful for that.